Hello, everyone. So we're gonna wait a couple until everyone, so we get a bigger influx of attendees. But it's an honor to be with you all today. I'm joined by three amazing women, three iconic women in their respected fields, and I can't wait to share what their stories are and for them to share their own stories with you. I wish we had a jingle, Alex. It would be so cool to play a jingle and
We have to make one.
right. Um,
Women empower. I don't know. I
Women power.
That's exactly women empowerment. I don't know. That was pretty good.
so we'll wait until people flex in. But how's everyone doing? Let's break the ice.
We're doing great, actually. We are so glad to be with you, especially coming back home, FIU. Yeah.
Go
We all
Panthers.
got our start at FIU. We are
Go
who we
Panthers.
are because of FIU. So we are
Exactly.
grateful to be here today. We are grateful. I know I am. I am very grateful and thankful.
Me too. Me too. Exactly.
Right, right, right.
Great.
Even though I'm out there working, I'm out here at the vaccination drive. We're trying to vaccinate our seniors, but I am blessed and happy to be in the company of women from FIU, most of all, FIU is the school who prepare good women to get in politics, to get in education, to get in teaching, social work, whatever the field is, FIU got it. So we are blessed.
Preach. FIU does have it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Engineering, medicine. Yes.
Okay, okay.
Don't
All
forget
right.
law.
Law.
Math,
And law,
law,
right.
medical,
Law.
medical, law,
Yes.
Iris
anything,
is
you
like, I
name it.
studied hard. I better get my recognition.
Yes,
That's
and our law
right.
school has the number one bar passage rate, at least for the
I
last
Exactly.
10,
know.
11 years.
I
That is
Exactly.
know.
huge. It's huge.
I
We're so
know. I'm
proud.
telling you. I have my daughter who is studying actually in DC, and I told her you need to come back home so you can go to. She's going to law school. I said you need to come back home to go to FIU. FIU is top. It's number ranks very high when it comes to passing the bar and everything else. So no, we love
Yes.
FIU. We love the school.
Yes, we do. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, Iris, because that's such an honor and something that we're also proud of here at FIU. Even those that aren't even studying law. We're like, yeah, did you know that FIU's law school is the number one?
Yeah, because when I first started, I was in one of the earlier classes, not of course the first class, but people used to be like, "FI who?" And so when we started, over and over having the number one bar passage rate and at July or the February testing, people started paying attention and it's huge. Bar passage rates for law school, those are not easy. And so to be number one over and over and over again, it's a huge source of pride.
Good,
Absolutely.
good, good, good.
I brag about it all the time. Right? Because as a three-time alumna, it's our collective source of pride, right? And so, I'm always talking about the success of the law school, even
Mhm.
though I am not a graduate of the law school, but it is our collective success and source of pride, and across multiple colleges, but definitely that law school passage rate is just like amazing. Yeah, very amazing.
Right, right, right.
Our collective glory.
Hmm.
Cool.
Well, I think that we can get started, and I want to welcome everyone to Women Are a Collection of Their Collective Voices. And it's a pleasure to be with you all today. And to our returning guests, welcome back. To our new attendees, thank you so much for joining us today. And throughout this program, please feel free to submit any questions in the Q&A feature or any questions that you have for our panelists. And this program was created with the purpose of creating these grassroots opportunities and initiatives, as well as aiding in the professional development of our FIU students and focusing on highlighting these FIU women in their respected professional careers. And today we're joined by three amazing panelists, and I want to introduce them and share a little bit about what they've accomplished. So we have Dr. Valerie Patterson, who is a clinical professor in the Public Policy and Administration program at Florida International University. She received a PhD in Public Administration from FIU in 1995 and is a lifetime member of its Alumni Association. She is the current director of FIU's African and African Diaspora Studies program. She serves as affiliated faculty with FIU's Center for Women's and Gender Studies. And in June of 2020, Dr. Patterson was appointed by President Mark Rosenberg as one of the 3 chairs of FIU's Equity Action Initiative. Her most recent research examines post-racial performance of race, gender, and policing in majority/minority communities. She is the co-chair of the Graduate Certificate in Human Resource Policy and Management offered by the Public Policy and Administration program and teaches several of the graduate courses in the certificate, including Human Resource Policy and Management, Administration, and the Role of Women, Government and Minority Group Relationships, and Applied Organization Theory and Behavior. She has published in Public Voices, Public Performance and Management Review, Public Personal Management, and several other journals. In January of 2013, Dr. Patterson was the 5th honoree inducted into the Martin Luther King Hall of Fame at FIU. So let's give Dr. Patterson a round of applause. Her biography speaks volumes.
Thank you.
And we have Iris Elijah, who joined the Office of the General Counsel in 2018, focusing on all matters related to students, including but not limited to student organizations, student financials, student academic matters, student conduct, Title IX, and student international travel, the police department, and public record requests. Iris also advises FIU officials in policy-making decisions, regulation and rule promulgation, and oversees outside counsels in related litigation when necessary. Prior to joining FIU, Iris was the Assistant General Counsel for the State University System of Florida Board of Governors, Assistant General Counsel for Florida A&M University, and an Attorney Fellow for FIU. Iris was the first African American to serve as counsel for the State University System of Florida Board of Governors and FIU. Iris is a graduate of the FIU College of Law. Iris is a frequent public speaker and is deeply involved in her civic and legal community with service as the president-elect designate of the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division Board of Governors, board member of the Florida Association for Women Lawyers Foundation, board member of the Gwen S. Cherry Black Women Lawyers Association, and an active member of the Miami Alumna Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. Thank you, Iris, for all that you do. And we have Representative Marie Woodson of District 101, right here in South Florida. Representative Woodson was born in Port de Paix. Am I saying that correctly?
Or the pack? It's okay. You're fine. You're fine.
and she moved to Florida in 1981, where she's served in public leadership and public office for 35 years. For Commission for Women, where she was the chairwoman of the Commission for Women, Family Action Network Movement, Hollywood Neighborhood Crime Watch, Hollywood Civil Service Board member, Broward Regional Director, Haitian American Democrat Caucus of Florida, Broward Haitian American Democrat Club, and Democrat Hispanic Caucus of Florida. She studied at St. Thomas University, where she received a Master's of Science in Public Administration Management, and Florida International University, where she received her Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice, and Miami-Dade Community College, Associates in Arts in Public Administration. Her priorities are to seek resources for COVID-19 recovery, bolster our schools, make healthcare affordable, including mental health resources, improve our public transportation system, enhance public safety, and establish public and private partnerships to foster economic development which can create jobs in our district. She is in District 101, which is in Hollywood, and she has been a resident for 26 years and married to Robert Woodson and mother to Bradley and Kelly. So as you can see, these panelists have such success behind them, and I really want them to be able to share their stories and all their journey and how they got here. And I think we can start off with this one question, and that's, how did you start your career? What did that journey look like?
Who wants to go first?
I'll
Well,
go.
you're already talking.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
What time was your last appointment? Five?
Representative Woodson, you
Yes.
want to go first?
No, I'll let you go first. Go
Oh,
ahead. Go ahead.
okay.
Somebody
Yeah.
was
So for me, I was considered the eternal student, right? And in the sense that um, raised by a divorced uh, mother, and didn't really have the resources to leave Miami. So just like the representative, I started out at Miami-Dade, and the place to transfer was FIU, right? And always over the years of a corporate healthcare career, whenever I was bored or whenever I was not promoted as fast as I thought I should be, my my go-to place was the university. So I completed my bachelor's, came back for my master's, and then came back again for my doctorate. And you know, I guess the point that I would make in terms of my doctorate was that I knew that I wanted another degree. I wanted it to be a doctorate, but my goal was to come in for a year, complete the residency requirement, the 1 year residency requirement where you had to be physically present for classes, and then go back to the corporate world, right? But after a semester of seeing what the academic life was like, I was like, nah, I'm staying here. I am going to stay here because I loved being in the academic environment. That's why I was always going back to college. The idea of being in the classroom, seeing great speakers, being able to interact and engage with folks, that was always the draw for me. And so I'm very thankful that the opportunity then to join a university, first as assistant dean of my college, and then to go into a faculty appointment post graduation, and just been pleased and blessed with having this opportunity since that time. So physically working for the university um, since the 1994, but physically present on campus since 1989. So that's how much I love doing what I do and being at FIU.
You're like Alex and I, you bleed blue and gold.
Yes, yes, lots and lots and lots of blue and gold.
cool. So I would go next. Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate this great opportunity to talk to all of you on this topic of women empowerment, because I'm all about elevating women, empowering women, especially the younger generation, because I know you have to take it once we, even now, you contribute to everything. You are part of the process, and it takes the young, the old, the medium age, all of us to make things happen. I was born and raised in Haiti. I would tell you how my journey started. Raised and born in Haiti, born and raised in Haiti, I had parents who really instilled the values early on, the values of giving back, which is one thing that I live. That's one of my living principles, giving back to the community. And my parents, any Haitian parents, if you know anything about Haiti, they want you to go to law school, medical school, or engineering school. Those were the three things. And my parents wanted me to go to medical school. Unfortunately, that's not what God had slated for me. And that was not what I had in my heart. I wanted to be a public servant. When I went for the medical exam, even though I used to be a good student, so I always had good grades, my name did not show up on the list because I did not have a godfather working in the government. And that was it. But if you don't have that, you don't stand a chance. So I came here, started a career in public service with county government before I even spoke any English. I landed a little job in Miami-Dade County government while I started going to school at Miami-Dade College and also at FIU. You know, after Miami-Dade, I went to FIU and I started moving up the rank in government. I had a career in Miami-Dade County government while I also did a lot of volunteering work. where I belong to a lot of boards. I became the chairwoman of the Commission for Women, also being involved in a lot of different boards, the Family Action Network movement, and so forth and so on. But I've always wanted to get into politics. And the reason why, because politics impacted me in a very negative way. Because of politics, I had to leave my home and come to another country where I did not speak the English. I did not know about the culture. So it was an adjustment period for me. But guess what? I've always wanted to serve. I always wanted to give back. That's why I started from the bottom as a social worker aide. I ended up being in charge of 5 major divisions for Miami-Dade County. So one thing I promised my family, I told them I would not get into politics until my youngest daughter was in college. I have a son and a daughter. The daughter is younger. So I said, until this one is in college, I would not get into politics. And that's exactly what I did. Once she started college, I said, this is the time for me to get into politics, to serve at a higher level where I can continue to impact life. But one thing that I did along the way, I always tried to groom younger women and men in order to make sure they reach their full potential. This is what it's all about, not just about us, but about what can we do to elevate others, to empower others, to make sure that they succeed as well. So I was fortunate recently, this past November, I ran for the seat. I ran a good campaign for 2 years, and I won the seat as a first-time candidate to become a state representative for District 101. So it took a lot of hard work, but guess what? Women, when we put our heart into something, we put 100% in it, and we will do it. This is why I want to see other young women, other women as well, to get into politics, to be at the table. And if you don't have a seat at the table, you make sure you create your own seat. So I'm not going to take much time because I know I have someone else after me, but this is how I started. I started at the bottom and worked my way up until now I'm a state rep. But hey, this is a journey. You never know where this journey is going to take you. One thing you have to do, you have to persevere and you have to keep at it. No matter what obstacles comes your way, just keep at it. As long as that's what you want, that's what you love to do. My love is service. I love to serve, and that's why I'm where I'm at. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you, and I look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Representative Woodson was a great segue into what I think really is the foundation of who I am in my journey. So I was born on an Army base to parents who were active duty in the Army. And both of my parents really broke barriers in the sense they integrated high schools. My dad, his family came from the Dominican Republic. And so I really came to this country understanding what sacrifice was and just understanding you're going to have to fight. And that's kind of part of the cards that you're being dealt, but that does not have to be a negative. And so for me, I grew up kind of taking care of my family, which is not what traditionally young people do, but I took care of my family and I knew that I was going to college, but I couldn't go to the college I really wanted to. And that's okay, because USF ended up being an amazing choice. And I would not change that experience for everything, but I had to figure everything out on my own. Like the FAFSA, I had no idea what that was. I didn't know about all these scholarships and all of the little tips and tricks that help you along the way. And I figured all of that out through college and realized I want to be a lawyer because I want other people to feel empowered and I want to do what I can to help people along their journey. And so I went to law school to FIU. I literally ended up at FIU because they gave me money. There was really no other reason as to why I was at FIU, but I'm grateful it worked out. I made it through law school and realized in law school, I cannot do this traditional practice of law. I think there's a lot to be said about working in a firm or working as a public defender or a state attorney, and that's great. It just was not for me. And when I was going to quit, but realized I needed this net check, I realized that I've got to draw my own path. And I tell everybody this because I think a lot of times people see adults in this perfect form. You got the great job, you seem to be so happy. And it's like, this is a journey. I really ended up here because other people saw something in me. Of course, I worked hard, but other people were willing to help me. Literally the only reason that I'm here. And one of my professors, Judge Phyllis Cote, also my sorority sister, said, you don't have to be what everybody else is to achieve your dream. And so she introduced me to my mentor who was in-house counsel for FP&L. And from there, I realized I can work in-house. This is amazing. But she also taught me you can create the future that you want. And so I end up picking up the phone to FIU's general counsel's office saying, look, I will work for free. I'll work for academic credit. I just want the experience of working in-house. And FIU gave me that opportunity. And from there, I stayed in the general counsel's office once I graduated from law school and was taking the bar exam. And then from there, somebody else saw this opportunity and said, you are going to be amazing because you're willing to take jobs that other people don't want to do. And you create this framework for them. And so you end up creating your own niche by doing that. And so from there, the general counsel at Florida A&M said, I want you to come work with me. Created a job for me and I went to work there. And the same thing happened at the Board of Governors. The general counsel at the time said, you are willing to speak up. You're willing to push the boundaries. I was probably the youngest person, at least by 15 or 20 years, at all of the university general counsel's office, which it can feel intimidating, but I realized I was closer to the students than everybody else was, which is how I ended up working with student issues. I think I was 25 and most of the students are 22. So, you're working with somebody and you're almost the same age. And so I ended up working at the Board of Governors. And not only was I practicing law in a non-traditional setting, but I ended up working with all 12 public universities. And I was spending my time writing bills and working with state representatives and senators to work on legislation for higher education. I was making the change and I never thought I would be able to do that. And I think it, again, comes from a willingness to say yes and to understand your path will not be straight, because I never intended to go to the Board of Governors. I wanted to go to DC and the opportunity presented itself. And so I realized that the path may not be straight, but it's still taking me forward. And so from there, FIU, again, I thought I left Miami, I was done. They said, we miss you. You would really fill a gap that we think we need right now. And they brought me back. And I said, these are my conditions though. And they said, yes. So that's the other thing. As women, we cannot be afraid to ask. The worst thing you're going to hear is no, you won't die. And it's probably no for now. And you wait 6 months and ask again. And then it may be yes. And so that pretty much is my journey. And I don't know what's next or when, but I just know that as long as I'm working hard, building relationships, and understand forward progress does not mean a straight line, I figure I'll be fine.
Those words are so empowering, especially as students that are, some of us graduating and about to start that journey, that it's not a straight line, but it will move you forward. And that really resonates with me. And to touch on that you said, sometimes you're in those positions that do seem intimidating, but sometimes those are the instances that can empower us, and people will support you in those instances. And it's so important to reflect on that. I really appreciate those comments that you made. Yes, Representative.
No, I would add to that. She is so right. Iris is so right in the sense that we always have a guardian angel watching over us that would really help us and guide us and put us to where we need to be. Because I remember when I first came from Haiti, did not speak any English, landed a little job in Miami-Dade County government before I even spoke English. And there was another young girl who was there. I was 21 at the time, going on 22. And when the phone used to ring, I used to be afraid to answer the phone because I did not speak English that well to understand what they were saying. And that young lady, I always remember her up to this day. Her name was Myrtle Saint-Élien. And she tapped me on my back and said, guess what? I got you. I'm going to answer that phone for you. And once you get better, you would get it by yourself, to show you the humble beginnings, but somebody always watching over you. And then when I was at FIU, I needed 2 classes to graduate. And I couldn't find those classes at night. I was working during the day, couldn't find the classes at night. I had a supervisor in the county, a woman, Janice Saunders. She told me, she called me in the office and said, guess what? I see you're a hard worker. You're trying to get your degree. I'm going to allow you to take those classes during the day, and you can make up those hours at the Women's Detention Center, where she had another program, to show you this is what we need to do as women, as people, not just women, men as well, but as women, we need to be there for other women, to empower them and to give them the push that they need, or the head start that they need, in order for them to succeed in life.
We can't be afraid to ask, and that's so important, because sometimes we think that the answer is no, but you don't know the answer is no until you ask.
Right, exactly.
Can I just jump in and agree with both Iris and Representative Woodson, this idea of a guardian, this idea of people watching you. So in Iris's case, like, you never know who is observing you in action and saying, you know what, she would be really great in this role. And so people are always watching. And sometimes, yeah, again, you can allow yourself to be intimidated, because people see your capabilities, and they identify you as like next gen leadership, right? Like that. Let's get her. And so for me, it was ending my doctoral program, and being a student, and working in a dean's office, and a new dean arriving, and someone's the associate dean at the time, it was a woman who was like, yeah, she was planning on retiring, and she said, and I have somebody in mind to take my place. And I was like, really, who is that? And she said, you. And I'm like, wait, hold up, I'm a student. What do you mean? So you just never know. And it's sort of really important to embrace sometimes the vision that others have of your capabilities. That's all I wanted to add.
That's a very good and strong point to add, because we often don't see the support, but like you said, they are there, and it's behind the scenes that happens. So it's really important to remember that. And if you feel like you don't have support, go look for it or ask someone, because at the end of the day, we here at FIU, we practice what we preach, right? We want to make sure that students feel that that inclusivity, and that there's always a space or that niche for them to grow and develop. And I think that this program is kind of where we wanted that to blossom out of, especially within student government, where we want to advocate for our students any way that we can. And that's why we have this, right? So on that topic of, your journey, how did you begin your journey? I wanted to ask you, what is something that you're so proud of? What is like your greatest accomplishment that you can remember? Representative, you're muted.
Well, I would say I've always told people, one of my greatest accomplishments is my two children. I met my husband when I started at Miami-Dade College, and I have to say the greatest accomplishment in my life is my two children, because they are my pride and joy, and you see yourself in your children. I have my daughter, who is a copycat of me, in a way, because she's very involved in politics. She's a junior and DC, actually. But when it comes to career, my greatest accomplishment is when I looked at where I started at the bottom of the barrel and worked my way up, where I was in charge of 5 major divisions for Miami-Dade County. One of them was social services for the entire county, senior services, domestic violence, Greater Miami Service Corp, and psychological services. So when I think about the many lives that I have impacted during my career, I would say that would be one of my greatest accomplishments, because I know I have changed lives. I know I have touched lives. but toward the work that have been done is the number of young people, the number of people in general that I was able to mentor, that I was able to help, that I was able to make the move from one. For example, like you, when you a director, you an administrator, you look at your team and you see the ones who have the potential to move up and the ones who don't have the potential to move up, but that you can help to open the eyes and see, hey, there's a better, not even a better life there. You know, you could do better from this position to move to the other ones if you do those type of things. So those are my greatest accomplishment, the not only the work that I have done to impact lives, but the number of young people and older people that I was able to mentor or to empower or to help to move from A to Z. So those are my greatest accomplishments.
I would have to say my greatest accomplishment, I just did it like 2 weeks ago, actually. I think winning the election to serve as president-elect designate for the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division. It's a division of 28,000 young lawyers across the state. And I never met a lawyer for a law school. I joined the board as an appointed member, not even an elected member. And I worked my way to become an elected member. And first I was representing, of course, Miami. And now I will be representing all of the young lawyers across the state. And, you know, I'm the first Black woman in 20 years, second Black woman in the entire existence of the Florida Bar, first government lawyer. I am still in absolute shock and awe, but I really hope it inspires other people to really reach for their dreams and to then stretch those dreams, because your dreams might just be too small. Because my dream was not to be in this position, and I just I just still am very excited.
And you should be, because that's momentous. Like you're, I'm sure as a kid or as a college student, like you said, you probably hadn't envisioned yourself in that position, and now you're here.
I know, and I was probably a horrible college. I mean, I was great in college because I went to the IB program, so college was really easy. And I spent more time, you know, running the campus activities board and doing the lecture series and being an ambassador. So I enjoyed undergrad, but law school is completely different. And when I went to law school, it changes so much about you, and the culture is different. And the culture does not look like me. So it was really, really tough. And again, I didn't meet a lawyer before law school. So I didn't even have the mental framework to understand where I was. I had to completely start over. And then now to be here, I really, really hope everyone stretches their dreams, because you can do it. You really can do it, despite what everybody else says, despite what the statistics say, despite who has or hasn't done it before you. You really, really can do it.
Okay, who are these people?
I
just
know.
wanted to ask
It's kind of a hard question to answer, right? I think you know, it's like so I'm gonna say not getting accepted to pharmacy school because I had really bad grades in chemistry and math. And so, you know, and when I applied to pharmacy school, it was like, they're like, really? No, no, we don't think so. And so it led to a completely different trajectory and my life. And you know, um, um, marriage, family, um, a different career that fit what my competencies and my capabilities and so it, so that and then for me it's now having had the experience. I mean, I lost count. I've been teaching since 1991. I've just lost count of how many students that I've had, but I've had classes of 40 and 50, and 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 now there are some places where I go, some events where I go that it's like you know, when you walk into the building, all the panther paws go up. It's like I see so many of my students and people are like, I had Dr. Patterson, I had her, you know, Professor Patterson, I had her. And people are now saying to me like, is there anybody who you haven't taught? And but it's so wonderful to see the accomplishments of my students, right? The students who have gone on, and like Representative Woodson said, that the public service, the importance of public service on the front lines, delivering and meeting the needs of communities and ensuring that they are receiving the services that they deserve. And I have so many of them out there who are doing such great and important work. And so I want to say that that's like my greatest accomplishment.
But Dr. Patterson, I think you bring up a really good point about mentioning the fact that you did not get into pharmacy school and how that really pivoted you to what you were really meant to do. And I think a lot of times I'm huge on social media, no shocker, but I think sometimes social media gives you this idea we should only talk about, your highs and where everything is perfect. And that's not true. And that our failures really do help us pivot. They help us to learn and become even better. And I think that's such a good point. There were so many jobs I did not get. I was a horrible law student. I mean, I think I knew first week how many days until graduation. And if you look at my grades, I'm sure they showed it. But I compensated by saying, you know what, I've got to work on my community service. I've got to work harder at the internships. And if I didn't do that, I probably would not be as involved as I am now. I would just go to the office, leave, whatever, and then I go home. But I think that's really, really important, Dr. Patterson, that you brought up the fact that you didn't get into pharmacy school.
I just wanted to chime in really quick. I know I was a little silent earlier. I guess my dogs were just as excited as I am for this, because they were barking a lot. So I was like, no, I know we're all excited here. But I just wanted to kind of emphasize how wonderful and although I guess in life and there are challenges that come our way, maybe it's a language barrier, maybe Iris was saying, you'd never imagined you being in the role that you are today, Dr. Patterson, with with school and stuff like that. And I feel it was amazing that Iris mentioned that sometimes in life not everything goes our way or how we plan it to be. And I know a lot of students, including myself, sometimes I guess I stress out this didn't go the way that I planned it. But all three of you are a perfect example of it's okay if life doesn't go as planned, because there's so many other, I guess, opportunities that get thrown your way. So I just kind of wanted to say thank you for that reminder that it's okay if there's ups and downs and there's bumps in the road, because at the end of the day you have people that will surround you and empower you and help you out along the way. So I just wanted to say that.
And it is always okay. I'm telling you, sooner or later, you're going to realize that you did not get into that other field because of reasons that you would have regretted later. You see what I'm saying? Just like I didn't get into medical school in Haiti. That's what my parents wanted me to do. And at the time, I cried. But guess what? Look at it today. I got into the field that I really wanted to, and who am I to say I would be a state representative? So things happen for a reason. God has a path for every single one of us. You will fulfill your God-given destiny. That's the way you have to look at it. No matter how many obstacles that you run into, keep on pressing. Don't ever give up. Keep on pressing. And sooner or later, you're going to be where you need to be, where you want to be.
That's awesome that you said that. Fulfilling your destiny. I think that that's something that at least I often think about. And sometimes it comes with the anxiety and that same aspect of intimidation. You want to fulfill your dreams and be that example of exception for not only your family, but those that you're surrounded by. And there is a path for you, and your moment will come. So that's always very important to remind yourself of that. And on that topic, so I know that you've all accomplished so much, and Iris, this was just super recent, your recent accomplishment. But what's something that you're currently doing right now and that you wish to accomplish in the near future? I know it's tough for you, Iris, because I feel like you've been working for this and now you just accomplished something.
Yeah, well, I'm very nervous. I'm not going to even pretend like I'm not. I feel a lot of pressure, and so I've got to sit down and plan and think things through. And get the opinions and experiences of others to create a plan. And so I'm very nervous, but that's still not the greatest thing that I want to accomplish, I hope, going forward. What I really want to accomplish going forward is I actually want to create a library. I know this sounds super weird, but I love libraries. And I want to have a library that really, really focuses on the African diaspora and really teaching people as children, there's a place for you no matter what. And that the narrative that we're often given is not the only one. And so I really want to have a library where people can come and read books and check out books and have events that really brings and empowers the community together. And so that is something I want to accomplish, obviously very long term, but that's one of my long dreams.
That's so cool. I would have never imagined, or that's not something that I would have ever thought you were gonna say. That's honestly very fascinating.
It is very weird. Actually, when I retire, I want to be a librarian. So again, I know that is very different, but my mom used to take us to the library on the weekends to read, and we would spend all day there sitting around. I still go to the library pretty often. So I love books and I like touching them. I'm trying to read on an iPad. It is not working for me, but I love books. And I love touching them. I love the smell. Okay, I'm glad I'm glad other people are with me because they're like, you're such a big technology person, but books and newspapers I need to touch. And so that's kind of my long-term dream.
It's very cool.
I want to do that too, Counselor Elijah. I want to do that too, and I've been talking about it for like the last. Wanted to be a space for people to read, for me to do my art, for communities to gather, for some spoken word to take place, and events and authors, because I have 25 books open on my Kindle. And yes, I admit that I just purchased a hard copy of a book that I'm listening to on Audible, because I need to have the book in my hand also. But for, you know, part of me says that it's to get an MFA, because I really want a Master of Fine Arts in the visual arts, because I have done some work within the last 10 years, and 10 years as an artist. I was a resident artist at Chroma Gallery in Coconut Grove, and first scholar in residence, and then I was asked to join as a resident artist, and I had my own studio and my work. And so if I could find the time in my schedule to complete an MFA, that would be something I want to accomplish. But more seriously, in terms of being appointed director of African Diaspora Studies, is to continue to bolster the university's presence in communities, and particularly Black communities. I grew up in Coconut Grove, and I'm very interested in creating those links and ties, accomplishing that. Coconut Grove, Liberty City, Overtown, Little Haiti, Opelika, Miami Gardens, North Miami, just bolstering the university's presence in those communities. So that's what I hope I will accomplish next in my role as director of African Diaspora Studies.
That's phenomenal that you said that, because those grassroots opportunities are so impacting to students. And I'm sure that tying in advocacy efforts to that, I'm sure that that's something student government would love to participate in with you. And we're all for grassroots opportunities and advocacy efforts.
Well. I know mine's going to be well shocking, but I'm going to go ahead and put it out there anyway. When I was at FIU, my major was criminal justice because my goal was to go to law school, right? I took the LSAT, but I got married on my third year, because I met my husband there and blah, blah, blah. So I got married, and after I took the LSAT, I became pregnant with my son. So I'm like, no, I don't want to be a law school student and being a mother at the same time and working for the county. So I kept putting it on hold, on hold, on hold. So the score was no longer good after 5 years. So I decided not to go to law school and got my master's in public administration. So now as a state legislator, yes, it's not that you need law school to be a good state legislator, but that's something that I did not do, that I say if I ever had the time, this is something that I would do. But really what I want to do, if you go, is for your own self-gratification. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about for myself. But my goal is really to continue serving, continue to impact more lives in the sense that I'm doing now, which means I would like to see more, as I mentioned to you earlier, kids who are in college right now who are homeless. I want to make sure we address those type of issues where I can create a home where those kids who become homeless would have a place to stay even until they get on their feet. That's one of the things that I would like to do. I would like also for college graduates, a lot of kids who graduate from college, they end up staying with mom and dad and they get depressed and they get into that depression because they have a lot of college bill tuitions to pay and they cannot even find a job, or they can't really get an apartment to stay, to be on their own like they thought was going to happen. So I would like to build some housing as well that we could rent to college graduates at a lower cost. Let's just say $400 a month, just like we provide affordable housing to low-income families. Give it to them for 2 years until they really get a job, save some money, and then they become homeowners. So I have a lot of those things in my mind that I would like to do in order to benefit others, to empower others, and so many other programs that I would like to start. But I would mention those, really, those are things that I want to do. Going back to law school, finish law school, and then work on all those projects that I mentioned to you.
It's phenomenal.
To make the world a better place.
That's phenomenal. I feel like I'm currently at those crossroads. Am I going to go to get a master's? Or do I want to go to law school? So it's good to see that I'm not the only one on that boat.
Well, you don't need a master's to go to law school. If sometimes I see a lot of kids who do that. They get the master's first, but you don't need it. So, if you want to save your time after your bachelor's, go take the prep class, take your LSAT, and get to law school. And you're young, your mind is a sponge now. So just go ahead and do it. You see what I'm saying? They say the masters help sometimes, but you don't really need it in order to get admitted into law school. Save you so expensive now,
This is true. Ours is
I think I'm looking forward to the collaboration of libraries. Since both of you are interested in libraries, I'm looking forward to in the future. I would definitely pay a visit. Because I also, when I was younger, I was a huge book nerd. I used to go to Toys R Us and I used to want to go to the book section. That's a little fun fact about me. I'm not really into books anymore. I'm not gonna lie, but I do want to go back into it. So you all inspire me to go to the library and get some books.
The Iris Elijah Library. I think you have to send us the address so we can all go. At least be at the grand opening.
Exactly.
We all be there.
Okay, so then I think that we can segue now into this interactive component that we wanted to implement. And Dr. Patterson is actually gonna take lead and show us this activity that she does with her students as well.
Great. Thanks, President Valdez. So for me, it's before I get started in talking about the usefulness of a career map, as our initial discussion, as we were preparing to start the talk about the discussion about a song of empowerment. And when I teach, there's a course I teach called Administration and the Role of Women. And that first week, what we do to sort of focus in on empowerment is think about anthems. So, what's your anthem, right? What's that music that gets you going and engaged and energized to accomplish your goals? And so we usually start with Sisters Are Doing It for Themselves by Annie Lennox and Aretha Franklin. And then we follow up with Ladies First by Queen Latifah. And then our third song is usually I Am Woman by Helen Reddy. So before I get started on the career map, I really want to encourage the people who are viewing this talk today and on this call to think about the importance of an anthem. You got to have an anthem. You got to have a soundtrack, right? What's your soundtrack to accomplish your goals? And so I talk about in most of my classes, I teach in the HR specialization, but especially in my executive classes and in my master's intro class for the Master of Public Administration, the importance of having a plan. And I know we talked about the sometimes our paths may not unfold in a direction that we thought they could, and we might have to pivot. But I think Attorney Elijah made this point early on about a plan, right? Having a plan. And so what I'm suggesting is that you might think about the importance of developing a career map or preparing a career map. And for the career map template that I've been working on over the years, I start out with talking about and focusing on the importance of setting goals, and your goals can be career related goals, they can be professional goals, they can be academic goals. When I started a bachelor's, my undergraduate program, and even master's and doctoral program, I started graduate school with working full time with two children who are under the age of 3. And so for me, what I did was also include goals that family goals, right? And so I always start out with for my family to be healthy and happy, right? So that was always my first goal. But think about presenting, identifying your goals in intervals, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 3 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years. What I've found over the years is that the younger the student, the less willing they are to thinking about 25 years in the future. But as someone who is now in her 60s, I would say to you that those 20 years are going to go fast. So you can plan, you can plan ahead. And so the literature suggests that the difference between the people who set goals, right? The difference between the ones who accomplish those goals versus the ones who don't are that the ones who accomplish their goals are usually the ones who write their goals down. And when you write the goals down, you have an opportunity to reflect on the goals and think about what you need to change, what you need to adjust to accomplish the goal if it's not happening. So having a personal vision is important. Having a personal mission statement is important. And so from there, the next phase is to, so this is for usually working graduate students. And if you have not started your career yet, or you're about to engage in your career, embark on your career, you might think about um, what you want your first position to be post graduation. If you're currently working, um, start out describing your current position and what you're doing, right? And then start again thinking in intervals. What position do you want to hold in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years? And so for my students in the public administration program, I mean, they could be working at a particular government agency, but ultimately might have um, a, a goal of serving as a county manager or a city manager. Uh, there are so many students who I've had over the years who say that at some point in their career, they want to hold an elected office. So what I'm suggesting to you is that there might be things that you could be doing right now to identify organizations, networks, individuals, um, student groups, opportunities for internships, opportunities for fellowships that will allow you to acquire additional competencies and skills that facilitate your movement, the movement of your career in the direction that you want them to, you want your career to move. And and so that might be um, Professor Valdez's uh, discussion of law school, right? And so thinking about where you ultimately want to go in your career, and will a law degree be required? And if you think it will, then starting to prepare and think about what you need to do to complete that additional education requirements. Um, so projected positions are important. Completing additional educational requirements are, if necessary, are important. Um, and again, for undergraduate students, that could be identifying faculty members, professors who are going to be able to write you great letters of recommendation, because you're going to need those letters, whether it's LSAC, whether it's in a doctoral program, thinking about that as well. And so 3 paragraphs that present your vision of how your undergraduate program will shape and positively impact your career. And clearly, having served as um, an advisor for a student organization for like 6 or 7 years, and seeing student organizations in action, having served as a BSA back in the BSU back in the 70s when I was an undergraduate at FIU, that you gain all types of experiences. You'll acquire additional competencies in, whether it's through SGA, whether it's through other um, uh, or student organizations. And again, thinking about how those opportunities, how that experience is going to ultimately be useful for shaping your career, uh, the career that you hope to uh, develop, attain, and master. So now I need to know, like, should I continue, or is there going to be a breakout, or what's going to happen?
No,
Should I
you
continue?
continue. I
Oh,
think
okay. Okay.
just having them reflect and doing this on their own, or
Oh,
just taking pictures, and they can probably do it at a later time.
okay, great. Great. Thanks. So also, I think, and what I encourage my students to do is to identify professional role models. Um, and that can be researching those individuals. Some of us, our role models might be within the same organization. They could be on campus. They can be off campus. They could be the leaders of community organizations. They could be elected officials who we've met and interacted with. And along with researching those individuals, if you don't know them personally, but you know that they're currently holding a position that you aspire to, then you might also consider reaching out to them with questions about their careers. And so I had a student maybe 10 years ago who had a desire to work with Amnesty International. And so she worked on um, a strategy and a plan for completing her career map, and she presented her career map as she was completing the administration in the role of women course. And she talked about a desire for working with Amnesty International, and she started doing her research, and she ultimately was able to join Amnesty International and engage and interact, and over time actually became a board member. So reaching out and asking questions, also shadowing. You know, sometimes depending on your major, you may be required to complete a residency or an internship that requires you to work with and follow and rotate through an organization. But what about shadowing someone in their professional capacity who's in a career or who has a career that you aspire to? So you might prepare a proposal to shadow that person in their professional capacity for a full day. And even when I use the career map as an assignment, I ask students to actually contact that person and plan to shadow that person for the day, and think about like what kinds of interaction. If your aspiration is to lead a community organization, what kind of um, interaction, what type of activities would you like to observe and shadow a director of a community organization completing? And then think about your ideal professional self in 5 years. And I usually ask people to think beyond 5 years, but for the purposes of today, just 5 years from now, what's your ideal professional self? Is it that you've entered law school? Is it that you've completed law school? Is it that you've entered a doctoral program? Is it that you've achieved a presidential management fellowship and you're in Washington, D.C.? I mean, I've had students who've completed those fellowships. Is it that you want to be have completed your first rotation as a foreign service officer? So I had another student who had an interest in working in the foreign service. And you know anything about the foreign service, there are some universities who are known for placing their students in the State Department, and Harvard, George Washington are examples. And so I had a student who wanted to work in the foreign service, and as a part of her career map, she did the investigation and started pulling together the information that she needed and making inquiries, and I would say that she's on her fourth rotation in the foreign service, so working for the State Department. So two paragraphs that describe your ideal professional self in 5 years. And again, it's the visioning, but it's visioning and imagining, right? Is so important. Imagining where you want to be and what you want to be doing, and having the creativity to really not allow boundaries, not allow the psychological boundaries. I mean, there are barriers, and sometimes things happen, but just engaging in a visioning and imagining exercise in terms of your career, and that's useful for for empowerment. So some people suggest, some scholars suggest that you do a professional commitment statement. So this is when you're trying to get really serious about your career and your career development. And so some people complete a professional commitment statement, and that's, it really is designed to make sure that you have a response. Imagine having the opportunity to interview for your dream job. You want to have you want to have a response to the questions that will push you to the top as the best candidate for that position, and some of that involves sort of preparation. So thinking about the difference that you want to make in a particular organization. Um, the kinds of organizational activities you'd like to be involved in that organization now and in the future. And so while some experts argue that you shouldn't over prepare, it is useful to investigate potential employers, right? And think of and look at the mission of the organization, what kinds of service is being delivered. And for me, I'm always thinking public sector because that's what I teach, but nonprofit as well. But then it could also be the corporate sector. So um, specific kinds of organizational activities that you'd like to be involved in uh, include personal and professional experiences that validate that you would excel in the activities that you have identified above. It amazes me when I read the maps of my students and even the ones who are not um, have not started their professional careers, but who have major experience working in student organizations. So, what kind of experience, both personal and within your interaction in student organizations, what kinds of experiences have you been involved in that validate that you would excel in the activities that you're going to say to that potential employer that that's what I would like to be involved in. Why? Because um, this is what I've done. And so I think that the example that Attorney Elijah gave earlier about how she in 25, and very close to having had those experiences as a student, how she was able to make a difference and bring a different perspective into an organization. If I think there are a couple more. How are we for time? Yeah, okay. Um, so in the professional career statement, you want to include facts about yourself that give the reader some sense of how you came to embrace your commitments. Is it because of your involvement in a student organization? Is it because of your involvement in a community organization? What are some of your most important accomplishments, right? So that's what we were asked today. And that's a hard question to consider, but it is useful and important to have a response. Some of your most important accomplishments and successes, and then being able to address how these accomplishments relate to your commitments. I've always been interested in communities and have worked in community organizations, as whether it's on board of directors or whether it's on development activities and fundraisers. And so yeah, that's directly related to my commitments. Focus on strengths and examples of how you possess strengths that are required, and then your current involvement in a pursuit to acquire additional skills. So now that's kind of tricky though. I mean, this is a document that you're preparing for yourself because it's going to give you talking points. But sometimes you may have to be careful about how you communicate your current involvement in pursuit to acquire additional skills. And then the third phase, which is the final phase of the map, is you always got to think about obstacles. What are the obstacles and plans, and what are your plans for surmounting them? And so some of the obstacles you might not be able to identify, but there are others that you will. So for example, this not being able to uh, complete, for example, the think about that you want to acquire a law degree, but the cost might be prohibitive, right? We know that. We know about student debt, and we know about the challenge that student debt might have in the ultimate impact. So that might be an obstacle. What are the plans? There could be fellowships, there could be scholarships, and other alternative ways, mechanisms for completing the paying for your tuition for an advanced degree. And I can't emphasize enough that thinking about it and even writing down and providing examples of organizations that meet your requirements as a potential employer. Who do you want to work for? Where would you want to work? Is it some major global entity, or is it a local organization? Is it an organization on the state level that you want to work for? Um, so examples are always good. Everything's on the web, so look for websites and look for examples of organizational missions. And I include this element for the phase 3 because, again, I think it's important to think about fit, right? Your personal fit with that particular organization, and what you don't want to happen, you don't want to end you don't want to land in an organization where the values of that organization conflict with your own personal and professional goals, right? So thinking about that. um, so social entrepreneurship, and I include social entrepreneurship because, again, I teach in a public administration program. And so our students are usually headed towards government employment. But I also can't um, tell you how many students that I've encountered over the years who also want to start their own nonprofit organization, right? And so for me, it's like, okay, but think about um, being a social entrepreneur. What would that look like? What would if you ultimately want to be a consultant, right? What would that look like? And then how will the plan that you have mapped help you succeed in accomplishing your vision? So these are questions that are designed to get you to be introspective and reflective, again, with the goal of thinking about how you can empower yourself, right, to achieve the career that you desire. And finally, and this is, I think, closer for me than for many of you, is complete the map by visualizing your retirement. And as I said, that my younger students, when my students at the undergraduate level, many times they be resistant to this part of working on the map because it to them it seems like it's so far away. But I wish that my first job was in is 16. My first real job, I mean, a job where there were it's major benefits in a corporate entity was at the age of 20, and and that was in the 70s, and I didn't have any clue or concept of retirement, like that you should save for retirement, that you should have a pension, and that you should be thinking about what happens when you leave the workplace. So complete your map by visualizing your retirement. Describe who you are, where you live, your health status, your socially responsible in investments. Again, that's me kind of making the plug. The board of directors for which you are a member. So yeah, it really is important to serve and serve on boards of directors. And the boards of directors need sort of multi-generational directors. So and then finally, to include a discussion of why you were honored during a commencement ceremony 30 years in the future. So we all want to be at commencement. We want to be that alumna who's honored at the commencement ceremony. Okay, honored for what? What was it? What was that major thing that you accomplished that now FIU is honoring you at its commencement ceremony? So that's a sort of brief overview of the career map.
Thank you, Dr. Patterson. And I'm sure if people are like me and that they like to plan ahead, that they for sure were taking notes as I was on the career map. Thank you for all the insight. It's very much needed, especially students in this remote environment. Sometimes we tend to feel lost or tend to feel helpless because sometimes I feel like that too. And I really want to thank our panel for all their insight and the lovely words that they shared with us today. Is there anything before we close off, anything you want to leave us with? Any last tokens of inspiration? No? What
Yeah,
face?
yeah, for me, it's that I just wanted to say that anyone who's on the call and wants to reach out and talk about the career map with with me, students keep telling me, and they come back and they say, "Wow, this was the best assignment ever." But they could be just saying that to me. But anyway, I think it's pretty useful. It's been helpful for me. So anyone who wants to reach out and contact me, I can be reached at Patterso without the N, Patterso at fiu.edu, and I'm more than willing to talk about the map and talk about career development and sort of the importance of empowerment and empowering others. For me, it's now at this stage in my career, I'm more focused on next generation leadership. So I'm always excited when the women of SGA are doing events. I try to show up at their cafecito chats and their other events because I mean it really is about next generation leadership and so we it's important for all of us to mentor across generations, to mentor, to reach back, to think about it's at the undergraduate level to think about even secondary schools and elementary schools. I mean, what can we do? What can we do to empower girls um, to seek higher education, especially across these multiple disciplines that we offer at the university. So I want to thank you again for the opportunity to participate. It was great being on a panel with Representative Woodson and Attorney Elijah. I think we're all paused up. So thanks for this.
No, thank you. And thank you all for joining us today as we continue in this program and creating these opportunities for our women here at FIU. We learned so much today about stretching our goals and our dreams and remembering that we always have a seat at the table, right? So I hope that you all continue on this journey with us and you can continue to tune into these sessions because they do make a difference and they do empower us every day.
Thank you so much, Alex. You really gave us hope when we see young leaders like you and your colleagues and all of you here who put this together this evening to allow myself, Dr. Patterson, and Counselor Elijah as well. I'm honored to be part of the group. And one thing that I would leave you with this evening, as you can see, I'm a true example that anything and everything is possible as long as you applied yourself, you put your heart into it. We are hopeful to see the leaders like you all who are coming up who really want to make a difference, who really want to have a seat at the table. But I would tell you one thing, if my father used to always tell me, if you cannot go to the door, find a window. If you cannot find a window, find a little head and to get your seat. We have a lot of good women out there as well who are willing to enter to take you under their wings. We have Dr. Patterson at FIU. Look at Counselor Elijah as well. If any young women want to go to law school, and if you want to become a state legislator like me, guess what? Start now. Now is the time for you to start. I don't care how many years you're looking at doing it, because it doesn't start on the day that you decide to run. It's a lifetime thing. It's a lifetime commitment. Start now and start finding people who share your values or people you want to be, not like them because you want to be your own, but people who you can emulate or you can look, who can be an example for you, and try to connect with them because they are there to help you. The universe is there to help you. So focus on your goal, go after them, and start planning now. So thank you for having us, and we look forward to continuing this conversation with you in the future. Thank you for having
Thank you
us.
for those words. Thank you all. And stay tuned for our next session in April, in March. Whoa, in March. We will be posting on our social media. I hope you'll all join us and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madeline.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Bye.